What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Aftermath Podcast. I am your host, Christopher Tenpenny. No CJ Jones today, no normal co-host, but we are still welcomed here with Keegan Russell, the brains behind KC Sports Authority, which if you're not watching this on the YouTube channel, please go to the YouTube channel, check them out. They do a lot of good KU stuff. Our podcast here is always on. Just hit the subscribe and like button. It's easy. It takes 2 seconds. It helps us out, and you get to be notified whenever we drop new episodes in your whole new sports platform. So just go check us out. But anyway, we'll get that out of the way. Let's get to the real topics, Keegan. It's divisional round week. It's Bills Chiefs. It's maybe the best weekend of the year where you have 4 playoff games, all highly anticipated, and none more than this Chiefs Bills game. How are we feeling?
It is Chiefs Bills for what feels like the 100th time in the playoffs. I don't think the NFL could have scripted it any better. Chiefs Bills in the playoffs. This is one of their biggest games. I think every year on the schedule, you got Patrick Mahomes versus Josh Allen, two of the best quarterbacks in the league. A team that, I feel pretty confident with coming into this game. However, the Bills are pretty desperate. They now finally have everything set up to be their best chance at winning in the playoffs, I guess. You got home. We're playing very hot right now as an offense. The Chiefs are still kind of figuring things out, so maybe their best opportunity to take us on. But after last week's game, I know it was freaking cold, but I mean, you got to feel pretty confident coming into this matchup with where the Chiefs are based on how they played last week. And even though the Bills are a very dynamic offense, I mean, it doesn't take much to talk about this defense and what they're capable of doing. So feel pretty good about it. I think it's going to be a very, very good matchup as it always is. This game never disappoints. High scoring. It's play Josh Allen versus Mahomes going back and forth. So this is going to be a lot of fun, and I don't think you'd want it any other way.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that it's going to be high scoring because that's one of my first questions I was thinking about is do you think it's going to follow that typical fashion? There's the overtime game from a couple years ago that what was it, 36-41 or whatever that was. I'm blanking on but it was a lot of points scored, especially in the last few seconds, and there's been high scoring games. And the first matchup this year was 2017. And then this game, I expect it to be kind of a similar kind of score. I was wondering, do you have that same impression? Do you expect it to be, 31-27 or some of these other scores?
Yeah, so the over-under set at 45.5. So I think Vegas feels like this is going to be a little bit lower scoring than previous games. And I feel pretty good with that. I mean, if you look at how the last game went, it just was back and forth, back and forth. You've got a really, really good Chiefs defense, and you've got a somewhat questionable offense against a Bills defense. Even though they're banged out the year, they're playing well right now as a unit, and they've got a pretty nasty defensive line, even with an incredibly old Von Miller that can't do anything. But Rousseau is a stud, Oliver's a stud, and they find ways to pressure us. So I don't anticipate it being that high scoring. I don't have any team going above 24 points in this matchup myself. So I think this is it's playoffs. Everything's dialed in a little bit more. Both teams are more focused. It doesn't feel like your typical shootout, in my opinion.
Yeah, it feels like a hammer the under kind of game, simply because if anything else, the Chiefs defense makes it feel like you need to hammer the under. I mean, that unit has been one of the best units of any unit across all 32 teams in the league. I mean, they haven't allowed a team to score over 30 points yet all season. I think there's a stat that they haven't allowed that since in the last 2 seasons. I think they only did it once last year, and that was the Super Bowl. So, like, the defense has been clicking. It's got a lot of stars. It's got 2 great corners. It's got a pass rush. It's got the linebackers are going to be healthy in that first matchup. Tranquil and Bolton didn't play. I mean, Tranquil played like one series before he had to go out with
I think he played that
concussion.
first one, and then he got
And then we had
to the
Cochran
face.
out there. Yeah, so like, you're at a full unit on defense, and then the Chiefs offense hasn't been up to snuff. So you take those 2 things in consideration. Yeah, it feels like it has to be, an under game, and that's not going to be our typical fashion. It's going to be maybe the first team to 21, maybe 24 points wins. I mean, that's just how I'm kind of feeling.
And wasn't Pacheco out in that game too?
Yeah, Pacheco was out. He didn't play. It was a
So
Clyde
you
game.
didn't have your same offense that we have right now. Travis Kelce. I mean, we all remember that fantastic play that comes down to a game of inches. If Tony's just lined up 2 inches back, who knows how that game goes? And maybe this game's being played in Kansas City this weekend. But I mean, the Chiefs are really good on the road. They've been really good on the road ever since Mahomes went under center. The Bills are going to be playing desperate. I mean, this is their Super Bowl. I mean, obviously they would like to get to the Super Bowl, but this is their Super Bowl. The Chiefs have been in their way. Yeah, they've beat us in the regular season here and there when it doesn't really as much, but they haven't been able to get over us in the playoffs. And I mean, we're the last thing, kind of, well, not the last thing, but the next biggest thing standing in their way from getting there. So to me, I'm not saying that the Chiefs have house money to play with, but I think they're going to come in playing much easier than what the Bills are. I think the Bills are going to be overly critical of everything they do. I think they're going to be very dialed in, but when they're that dialed in, they feel that pressure. I think they're prone to make mistakes, and we all know Josh Allen is going to do something in this game. He's going to make a bunch of tremendous plays. He's going to break off a big third down run that's going to be a game changer. But he's also very prone to throw that timely interception, to fumble the ball. So again, the Chiefs don't have a lot to. I don't think there's as much pressure on the Chiefs to perform as there is for the Bills. So I think that does play into our favor. And with the defense that's as dialed in as it is right now, with what Spags is doing, like, you got to believe this team's going to create some sort of frustration on Josh Allen, like we usually do. And with the emergence of Karlaftis on the edge there, he's been winning one-on-one battle a lot the last couple of weeks. So I feel very good with where the Chiefs stand. I know they're still an underdog right now, about 2.5 to 3 point underdog, which is probably mostly being on the road. But as hot as the Bills are, this Chiefs defense still gives you plenty of confidence that they can slow this down. And I think if they can slow things down and keep this under 24, then yeah, the Chiefs have a really, really good shot. Hopefully it's not a game where we have to kick 4, 5, 6 field goals to get to 20, 21, 24 points. Convert a few more red zone targets, and that game was 41-10 last week, or whatever the score was, 41-7. So I feel pretty good. I think the big question mark for me in this game, though, is again offensive line play. Jawan Taylor, for the most part, was pretty clean last week. Now, again, that was considering the elements, the snow, the cold. The Dolphins just were not prepared. But he's going up against a defensive line that's not as beat up. He's going up against a line that's quick off the edge, dynamic. They can pass rushy inside, outside. Russo's been solid. Gotten a lot of tip balls at the line of scrimmage against us in the past two. So I guess that's where my focus is early in this game is at right tackle with Jawan Taylor doing what he does. Can he play clean? Can he keep the pocket clean for Mahomes? We know Mahomes is going to do what he does and get outside the pocket and make some plays. But I think the offensive line is going to have a big microscope on them this week because they're going up against a defense that is very solid at rushing the passer, and they've got multiple guys that can do it. So I think that's where you have to start with the Chiefs in this game outside of controlling the ball.
No, for sure. And I want to jump real quick to Josh Allen because, what is it about that Josh Allen where, it has the whole league? If you're not a Chiefs fan, you're just enamored by Josh Allen. You just want him to be the guy so bad. I mean, he's on the cover of Madden. He's getting more MVP buzz than Patrick Mahomes. And, you see a lot of these shows, whether they're saying who has the advantage or they're ranking quarterbacks in the playoffs or whatever the bit may be, that Josh Allen is above Patrick Mahomes right now. It blows my mind that this is the narrative right now. And we've seen the same thing happen with Burrow in the past in these games where it's Bengals got the advantage at quarterback. It's have all these quarterbacks that started the playoffs this year, two of them had rings, Joe Flacco and Patrick Mahomes. And now Flacco's out. So guess who's the only one who has a ring left? Patrick Mahomes. He's got two of them. He's got two MVPs, which Lamar is the only one who can match him at that point. And it's okay, he didn't have a normal Mahomes season, but he still had a better completion percentage than Josh Allen, threw for more yards per game than Josh Allen because Pat sat out the last game, threw less picks, and by the way, had the far worse receiving core from Josh Allen. So it's I get it. Josh Allen gets a lot of 2 yards rushing touchdowns. So the total touchdowns looks great for Josh Allen because he can hit it for 2 yards. How many yard difference do you think is between rushing for Mahomes and Allen, considering Allen has 15 rushing touchdowns and Mahomes has 0 this year? What do you think the
yards per
rushing
game rushing?
No, well, yeah, either or.
Total. I know Mahomes. I don't know the exact number, but this was the year he's had the most rushing yards in his career. I believe like close to 500. I would put Allen probably 350, Mahomes 450.
So Allen did have had 100 more because
Okay.
he's asked to run more. He had 30 more attempts in 15 touchdowns. But it's like in our minds, Josh Allen's this run first bulldozer, and it's like 100 yards over 17 games ain't jack. Like they just ask him to run at the 2 yard line more. So I just it blows my
Yeah, they just
mind.
have more built. I mean, they has what 5 built-in runs a game that
Right,
Mahomes doesn't.
exactly. Mahomes doesn't have any called runs. None of Mahomes rushes
But we do know what
are
Mahomes can
by
do when he
design.
runs in the playoffs. Some of his
Right, which
biggest
is
moments in his career have been runs in the playoffs.
right. So can you make it make sense? Why is everyone always so enamored by the big new thing, whether it's been Josh Allen in the past or Joe Burrow in the past? Like it's Patrick
Yeah,
Mahomes. Like, what are we doing here?
I think some of it, Mahomes was that guy. His first year, first 2 years, it was wow. Look at that guy. I mean, I don't know if it was the second game of the year and the first year he started that Steelers game where he threw for like 400 yards and 6 touchdowns, and everybody was like, "Wow, this is the next guy." I think we're
Mm-hmm.
just at the point now where Mahomes does so many great things that it's the constant expectation he's going to do that. So there's only so many things he can do to really wow you. I'm not saying that, Josh Allen is better by any means, but I think Allen's case is he plays with it with a passion and an energy and I guess a mock, so to speak, that just captures people's attention because he's so physical. I think Mahomes this year it's been a different year, of course, with the frustrations of the offense, but we've seen him play with more emotion. And I think Allen's one of those guys that he puts his body on the line, and he just like he's a hard nosed kind of guy. And so when he's making these big plays, that's I guess nationally that stands out more than the constant mistakes he makes. For on the flip side, Mahomes could have a bad game for himself and still throw 3 touchdowns, but he throws 2 picks, and all everyone want to sit here and talk about is he threw 2 picks, he looked off today. Well, Josh Allen could have the same exact game, throw 2 picks and have a fumble, but it's did you see that big time third down run he had? Oh my gosh, he jumped over. So it's probably just a little bit of the passing the torch where Mahomes has done it consistently for enough years now that people get bored. People want the next thing. They want the not necessarily Mahomes to be the villain role, but they want that next man up to excite them and interest them. So Mahomes is probably here in the next year or two, probably going to get some LeBron James stat in the sense of either half of NBA fans like LeBron and the other half just absolutely despise him. It's probably going to be coming to that point, or it's the NFL just trying to force the narrative that there's other guys out there. But we all know at the end of the day, the most talented guy on the field at any given moment is always 15.
Yeah, and it's just crazy. I mean, Mahomes broke his helmet last week for crying out loud. Like, don't tell
Yeah.
me that guy's not physical and
When is
not
the
ready.
last time you've seen that happen? That's
I
crazy. I've
haven't.
never
I've
seen that
never
happen in
seen
an
it.
NFL
I've
game.
never
I think
seen
I've
it.
seen face masks get bumped up, but
Yeah, but
cracking your
never.
helmet.
Yeah, that was a first for me as well, and it was like, and again, the way people talk about Allen, it's like they build in and turnover when talking about him. It's like it's okay if he throws a pick. They just
Yeah.
call it an arm punt in Buffalo. They're like, I don't care if he throws one pick 30 yards downfield on third down, just an arm punt. Like, no big deal. Well, it's a little big
But
deal. Like
Mahomes does it, and it's oh my gosh, he's
yeah,
regressing.
Mahomes has a couple that hits off a receiver's hands for a pick six. It's like, oh man, Mahomes sucks. Throws it like, come on, guys. So that's been bugging me a little bit. It shouldn't because I know our guy is the best, and I think most people do know that. Like you said, they're just looking for the next big thing. Does annoy me a little bit, but let's move on to like. Okay, so you were talking about the Buffalo's defensive line and how it is their strength. They're so banged up everywhere else that it's really the only strength they have remaining with Ed Oliver and Russo and an old Von Miller getting some pass rushing snaps. Like, how well do you think this offensive line is going to do in the run game against these guys? Because if you can get a push on these guys, their backers they're on second and third string backers to where you block these guys up front, Pacheco can start popping some runs up.
Yeah, and I want to reference. This is going to sound odd for a second, but I'm going to reference the Michigan football team this year. There was a video I watched from the national championship game where you just see their interior offensive line. The second the ball is snapped, they're almost at the second level before the back even gets to the line of scrimmage again. And I think our interior, I mean, we would all, I think most Chiefs fans would agree that our interior off line is top in the NFL. So if you need a push, they're going to get you a push. I think that's where, I mean, CJ's talked about it too in many episodes. Running out of the single back, quarterback under center up the middle is our strength. That's where we are the best. That's where our best offensive line coverage is right there. I think if you can do that and you're getting these guys reaching, just like you said, their second level isn't anything super crazy. They've been banged up. They've got AJ Klein playing in this, who for most of the season was not on an active roster. Now he's been good in the best for them. He's been solid, but he's hasn't played for most of the season. Matt Milano, the so-called Kelsey stopper that they've talked about for the last several years, hasn't really done anything there. So I think if you can get to the second level with Pacheco, and we know he's going to run angry, like he's not going to go down easy. He's going to hit hard on the first guy. If that first guy doesn't wrap him up, or the offensive line gives him just enough of a gap where he can break through before the first line of defense gets to him, they're going to be eating up a lot of chunk plays. So I think if we stick with that game plan like we've talked about, Pacheco gets 15 carries, give or take, and a lot of it's up the middle, and he's getting to that second level. He's averaging 4 to 6 yards a carry. I think that's going to do a lot for us, because then what are they going to do? They're going to start kind of crowding in, and that's when Mahomes can start spreading out. I think one thing to think about, though, the Bills do have a really solid back end of their defense with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, pretty solid safeties. But if they're gonna have to start crowding the front to contain Pacheco, that's going to open things up on the play action for Kelsey and for Rashid Rice to get opened, or get Cole Hardman jet sweep or something. It's got to start there, like we said with this last week with the Dolphins. If they can attack up the middle, that just opens up so much more things for this offense, because that's the strength of this offensive line, and that takes so much pressure off of your tackles.
Yeah, no, and it is the run game because, again, I guess, they do have the experienced safeties in Poyer and Hyde, but, like, those guys are 10-year vets at this point. Like, they're not the same that they were a few years ago when they were the best safety duo in the league. Like, these guys have had injuries. They're in their 30s. They're old. Like, Tre'Davious White's been out. He's always out. He got hurt early in the Chiefs game, I believe. Milano hasn't played since October. I don't think he's going to play in this game. Like, you just start looking. Jason Elam, who was the corner taken after Trent McDuffie, because I think the Bills really wanted Trent McDuffie, and the Chiefs traded up to grab. Yeah, so, like, it has been a bust. Like, this defense, like, I don't expect the Chiefs to go out and throw up 31 points, because that's not who they've been all year. But it's a very similar defense to the Dolphins, into where they got a couple secondary guys, Jalen Ramsey, Poyer, Hyde. They've got a couple defensive linemen, and, there's Ogba and Wilkins compared to, the Russo and Ed Oliver, like we were talking about. So it's but banged up in youth or age everywhere else, aging vets or just young guys who haven't performed. You put up 26 points, you take points when you can get it. It's going to win this game. Like, I think it was Nick Wright, who I absolutely love. I know everyone else absolutely hates him online because he's just a big Chiefs homer, but he is my favorite. He's brought up a really good point.
KC guy.
Right, exactly. And it's like he brought up a really good point, and I didn't have the numbers to back this up, but it's kind of what I've been saying is, like, just take the points when you can. 14 of the last 18 drives that have mattered for the Chiefs have resulted in points. 3 punts, 1 turnover, which was the Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So, like, and that is not including
the game was mostly
game.
Gone by that point.
Yeah, it's taking away Neal's. Yeah, it's taking away Neal's at the end of the game, or Neal at half. So out of those 18 drives, you have 14 times where it ended in points. Now, most of those were field goals, but that's going to win you games when you have the defense you have. Just move the ball. The reason they struggle in the red zone is because they only have Rice, Kelsey, and Pacheco. And when you get condensed, it gets easier to take those things away. Mm-hmm. So but because Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and those 3 guys are so good, they still move the ball very well between the 20s. So just keep doing that. And sometimes you're going to get a couple touchdowns. If you have to kick 5 field goals the rest of the time, if you score once, I don't really care. Like, I know that's not the old Chiefs. I know that's not how we're hardwired to see a Patrick Mahomes offense operate. We keep saying, fix the red zone, fix the red zone. I don't really think it's going to get fixed most of the time, like, just because there's too limited. It's too easy to take away a 34-year-old tight end, a rookie wide receiver, and then a running back. It's like, that's just too easy to take away for NFL defenses. They're going to have to kick field goals, but that should be okay. Anytime it ends with points, you should be happy. That's where I'm at. That's it's a tough place to get to, but that's where I'm at when watching this Chiefs offense.
Yeah, and I think if you've watched the last 6 games or so, obviously there's still been the offensive struggles here and there, but I think you've kind of noticed that they've again we talked about the episode last week, starting to really hone into what their identity is. Between the 20s, it's run the football, take what's there, take a shot downfield if it's there. If it's not, you're running with Pacheco. You're eating up game clock. You're moving down the field. You're tiring the defense out. You're pushing guys around. You're getting a guy open over the middle. And then yes, we're still struggling in the red zone. But like we said this before with this Chiefs defense, they only give up about 1.6 touchdowns a game. So on average, the defense is still most weeks giving up less than 17 points. That's it. How many possessions do you need to score on? If let's say each team gets 6 possessions, if the Chiefs go 4 field goals, a touchdown, and nothing, more times than not, they're still probably going to win that game because they're still getting to 20 points when their defense is given 17. So I completely agree with you. It's all about taking the points, and I think you've noticed Andy kind of shift his mindset on he's been aggressive, but he's been aggressive when the game dictates it. But he's also taken the points when we probably like. There's probably still several drives you could think of in the last 3 or 4 weeks where, it's 4th and 3. They probably could have tried to go on the opponent's side of the field, short field, and if they miss it, it's a long field. But you take the points, you put the pressure back on the other team, and we've seen this defense is disciplined enough that you feel confident they're not just going to give up touchdown after touchdown. I mean, it just hasn't happened this year. There's not really any game this year where you've just been like, wow, I don't think the defense can get out of the spot here. Like you just feel so confident with this group that even if they give up chunk plays, they're not letting teams score that often in the red zone. And if they do, it's going to be a Josh Allen carry in the 10-yard line. We know. So just limit the amount of possessions they end up in the red zone, and the Chiefs probably still have the advantage. So yeah, I think it's kind of funny how much of the national perspective is still. I get the Bills' offense can be explosive. Josh Allen can break off a big run here. James Cook has been solid. Everyone knows Stephon Diggs is great. Dalton Kincaid's really coming into form. They've got a lot of weapons, but we've seen week after week this Chiefs defense continuously slow down the other team and make those teams force you to win without their best player. Snead has shut down every top receiver this year. I fully expect that to be the case again. Diggs might break one. If he gets separation on one play, yes, he could by all means, just like Tyreek last week, get a 50-yard touchdown. Okay, that's one play. One play out of 10, 11 targets. So I, again, feel very confident in this Chiefs defense to do what they need to do. I think we've got enough guys on the line to force pressure, and we know Allen is prone to make mistakes when he's forced into pressure and has to, get his timing out of rhythm. So again, I think all of the advantages line up on the Chiefs outside of maybe the Bills have their off weapons, but we know what this Chiefs defense can do. They've slowed down everybody they faced.
Yeah, and when Dalton Kincaid played the Chiefs the first time, he had 8 targets. He did catch 5 of them for only 21 yards. Like, he was a non-factor. You could say the same about Diggs. I don't remember.
And that was without our 2 starting linebackers for most of that
right,
game.
Exactly. And the safeties, are getting better, working together better because it was still new that Cook was out, so there were still adjustments there. Like, I know Dawson Knox is going to be playing in this game too. I think according to the, I don't know I don't think he played in the first matchup. I know he battled some injuries, but Stephon Diggs in the first matchup had 11 targets, only 4 catches. So like, I'm not super worried about this passing attack, especially when there is always some wind in Buffalo. It is going to be, probably below 20 with wind chill. I think the kickoff time is around 27 degrees, but like with wind chill, it's going to feel colder than that. This Chiefs team, oddly enough, is built better for the cold than the Bills team. Like, I know the Bills like to run the ball with Allen, but like the Chiefs have just proven time and time again that they want to be physical on both offense and defensive line. And not to say that the Bills haven't, but it's just like Miami wanted no part of it. A team that has all this offense, they came in, wanted no part of it. Chiefs blew them up on both sides of the ball. The Bengals did that to the Bills last year, and it's a very similar team. You remember that snow blizzard that the Bengals and Bills played in the divisional round last year, where the Bills were always talking tough, and the Bengals, who aren't as physical a team as this Chiefs team, wanted to play in that cold weather more so than the Bills did. So I just think mentally the Chiefs just have proven that they can get over that hurdle. Like Chris Jones was doing Chris Collinsworth impressions on the sideline during this Dolphins game. Did you see that video? It is -6 outside, and Chris Jones is on the bench doing impressions of Chris Collinsworth. The Chiefs released it. Like, that is as cool and as collected in the elements as you will ever see. George Karlaftis was yawning during it in that video. Like, it just showed that this team is so mentally tough and doesn't really care. The elements aren't going to phase them. Patrick Mahomes can sling it in any weather. That's why they came out and threw it 3 straight times to open the game. And I think you're going to see that same mentality all much, it's going to feel like a Bahama vacation compared to last week in Kansas City. But like the weather is still going to be somewhat of a factor. And it's just that element alone, even though we're in Buffalo and it's a place where Buffalo is supposed to have that kind of, I think the Chiefs have the advantage there too. Like it's just, I'm almost at the point to where I'm surprised the Chiefs are underdogs. Like
Yeah,
they're the
and I
healthier
I
team.
wonder if is it just the home team fact? I mean, again, most home teams, like on paper, these teams are very very similar as far as their season. Just the Bills finished the season hot. The Chiefs kind of barely limped their way in, and then finally found it there at the end. But so maybe a lot of it's just there's just the home field advantage. But I mean, James Cook hasn't been that impressive so far in the playoffs. They've kind of gone away from him like they did in the past. I'm looking at that last Chiefs game. I know they ran the ball quite a bit because that was the only real concern I had is if we hold them 100 yards, they feel pretty good. Even James Cook had a decent day, and Josh Allen had, of course, a lot of runs there. But again, like you said, this team plays so physical from the line of scrimmage, and if you start there in the trenches with that physicality, and it shows at each level on the defense, then that's going to put the offense into pressure situations. I think if you can keep this team in 3rd and longs to where you're not giving Josh Allen short 5-6 yards to get a first down, I think you're going to frustrate this Bills offense. We've seen Stephon Diggs get super out of sync when just look at last week. My favorite clip of last week is that Snead on Hill at the line of scrimmage. He pops him, knocks him down, pops him again, and Hill just kind of gives up on the play. Like
Yeah.
Snead's going to be that physical with Diggs. And we've seen Diggs when he gets frustrated, he gets out of sync and he just plays worse. So I think you're going to see a lot of that same thing here. We're going to try and frustrate him. Josh Allen, I think you got to hit him. Like any quarterback, you got to take the hits on him when you can. We know he's a tough quarterback to bring down. He's big, he's got a lot of size, and he runs really hard. But I think the Chiefs are going to just play physical. They're going to each guy on that line has a different tenacity when it in the quarterback. Chris Jones is going to be coming out on fire for this game again. He's had a lot of double teams lately, but he's got so much confidence in the guys around him that I think he just helps him play easier. And there's just nothing about this Chiefs defense that really worries you too much in how they play, because they never take a play off. They never look relaxed out there. Everyone's playing with intensity. They've got sound gap coverage. Willie Gay's looked impressive off the line there. He's been playing super athletically. Nick Bolton is on the ball every single play, coming across the field, making a tackle or breaks out. So just so much more discipline on defense. And I think that is what's going to frustrate the Bills more so than worrying about our Chiefs offense trying to score on this Bills defense. I think we can score on this Bills defense, and I think we're going to be able to figure out how to find Kelsey and Rashee Rice open and take advantage there as long as we're running through Pacheco. So again, I'm pretty confident. I know there's probably a lot of Chiefs fans that are worried because it's a road game and it's the first time Mahomes has ever had to be on the road. So, okay, we'll see that. But he's never really struggled on the road his entire career.
No.
There's just maybe a handful if that. So you're telling me they're not going to be prepared to go into Buffalo and send that team packing for the rest of the offseason and continue to show them that they still haven't reached the top of that hill yet. So again, I think all advantages line up on the Chiefs here, other than maybe the Bills are going to play hungrier because they have to. But I think we see when teams have to, Dallas Cowboys, they fall flat on their face because they put that pressure on themselves. If you're putting the pressure on yourself, you're prone to make mistakes. And this Chiefs team pressure themselves.
I can see that, but and maybe pressure isn't the word, but the Chiefs have a little bit of that too, because it's I think it's the Chiefs. The Bills have pressure, while the Chiefs have a chip on their shoulder, which is kind of crazy. all they've heard all year is how bad this team is, which is still like ninth offense in the league and the second best defense in the league. But like how bad they've been, how bad the receivers are, what's wrong with Patrick Mahomes. Meanwhile, this defense is never. I saw a list on ESPN where the Bills' defense was ranked higher than the Chiefs' defense, if by some analysts for the remaining 8 teams. Like it's just the disrespect that you just see. Like people can't get it out of their minds that this team is different. This team is not built like the 2018 Chiefs that is maybe the third greatest offense of all time. This team isn't built even like the Chiefs last year, where they had, McKinnon was catching a bunch of touchdowns. You had Juju Smith-Schuster doing his thing. Marquez Valdez was normal, and Kelsey was still healthy. Like this isn't the same team. You have an older Kelsey. You have a rookie in replace of Juju. Now that rookie has been amazing as of late, but part of the reason it started slow, he's very limited of what he could do. And then you have a Marquez Valdez-Scantling who's just mentally is drained. Like I don't know what
Hey, he
his
caught a
deal
pass
is.
last week. He
Yeah, I'm
caught a
glad they only
pass.
threw it to him once, but I still having as many targets as Noah Gray is never good. Like I need Noah Gray to have more targets. Like what are we doing here, Chiefs? Like but I digress on that part. But like this offense isn't the same. This team isn't the same because you have a full year of Trip McDuffie. You have Snead playing the best ball of his career. You have another year of Nick Bolton who's playing well. You have Justin Reed who's another year. And says like you can just go down the line of the defense and be like all these guys are either playing healthy or playing the best ball of their career or a year older in the case of some of the rookies last year. So it's like they just have people have it in their mind of what they've seen the Chiefs before. And even though we've seen now 18 games of this defense, people just cannot get it that this is a defense first team with the
Yeah.
greatest quarterback in the league, which guess which team won a lot of Super Bowls with that mentality, with that same thing. Maybe some limited options on the outside, maybe some limited options, but he had a tight end and a wide receiver he really trusted and a great defense. That's exactly what Tom Brady operated with his
Yep.
entire career. So why can't this Chiefs team be the same way? It took them a little bit to admit that was their identity, which was part of the issue. They still wanted to throw it
Mhm.
deep to Marquez. They still wanted to throw it 45 times a game. Pacheco was hurt, preventing them from fully embracing that. They've embraced it. It's the playoffs. They know who they are now. They're going to kick the field goals. They're going to hand it off to 10. They're going to throw it to 4 and 87 and let McDuffie and the Snead crew shut down the other team's offense. I know I've said that a couple times throughout this, but I'm just trying to really hammer it home that like this isn't your Chiefs team, like this isn't. I was gonna say this isn't your father's Chiefs team, but we're talking about 5 years ago. So this isn't your first edition of the Chiefs team. It's a new edition. So get used to it, change your expectation, and be confident going to the game. That doesn't mean the Chiefs are guaranteed to win, but there's no reason to feel like that they're going to lose as a fan.
Yeah, there's just nothing about the way this team carries themselves. I mean, you kind of said it earlier that they play with the chip on their shoulder still. They know they haven't had a good year for their standards. Offensively, it's been one of the worst offensive years this team's had with Mahomes under center. Defensively, it's been one of the best years we've ever seen out of a Chiefs defense under Spags. But they still play with this chip on the shoulder that everyone still doubts them. And I think it's because that national perspective. They're still looking at the Chiefs through the lens of this high-powered Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes offense that they're used to seeing. But I think what they fail to see is that this team can win without having to go to that level. Whether they're capable of going to that level or not is still maybe up in the air. They didn't have to necessarily go to that level last week, but they did enough to basically shut the door. But that defense really held Tua in check and Tyreek in check. So even if this offense isn't capable of getting to that level they have before, we've seen that they don't need to be at that level. I guess that would be the concern if from my perspective is if you have to get into a shootout, can we keep up offensively? We haven't had to this year in that type of game because our defense is so good. But yeah, it just everything's like this is the national perspective is just the Bills are the hot team. They're the darling of the NFL this year. They were down and out, should have lost. The Chiefs win that game, they're not in the playoffs, and we're not even talking about this. So I think just nationally, they're just everyone's riding the Bills train. Bills Mafia is a fun fan base to keep an eye on. I mean, everyone, if you go back and look at their game last week against the Steelers, you see their fans climbing over snow and shoveling snow out of the way just to get there. So they have a passionate fan base, and I think that definitely carries with NFL fans for excitement there. But it just feels like this is the classic. Everyone's trying to talk Josh Allen up and the Bills up because they have to. Because if they don't, then maybe they're that next contender that falls off and hand the reins over to, someone else like the Texans and CJ Stroud. But I have a question for you. I want to flip this back just to be negative for a second here, or less optimistic. If the Chiefs do go in and lose this game, we already know the season was frustrating as it was. Didn't win as many games as we should, lost games we shouldn't have lost, didn't play the best. And we said this last week that if they don't win the Super Bowl, the season's still a failure. If you lose this game, do you think their window or their current window has closed? Is the dynasty talk over, or is it just delayed a year?
Yeah, I don't think it's closed at all. I think there's a lot of people that acknowledge that it's already kind of a modern dynasty just because of the way sports are. I know a lot of people still hold that old, you got to win three. Well, I think three is a good number, and it would give you without a doubt dynasty talk. But like, I think 3 and 4 years, going to three and winning 2 and 4 years is as close to anything modern we've seen.
That's still better than most teams.
It's better than all the teams that other than the Patriots over the last since the Cowboys run in the mid '90s. So like, I think that it's, and even if you still think it's a three, you have to win three to be a dynasty, which a lot of Patriot fans will say that's the only way this Chiefs team can be considered a dynasty. I think that does extend to next year because I mean, why wouldn't it? Like it's kind of just how, I don't even really know how to explain it, but like it just feels like they've been so dominant. They haven't had a year off. They continue to win the division. They continue to win double digits. They continue to win playoff games. Like, I don't think if they lost in the second round would close the window and you have to start from fresh.
Yeah.
I think if they go to the Super Bowl and win it next year, I think we're saying, man, they went to 4 in 6 years and won 3 of them. Like, I don't know how you describe that other than a dynasty. And my biased ass opinion already thinks the current thing is a dynasty.
Oh yeah, I mean they've won what 8 straight division championships now. I mean
Yeah.
that's
They've
that's
gone to 5
borderline
straight
dynasty right
conference
there.
championships. Like, they've gone
This
to 5.
weekend could make 6.
Yeah. So,
And if things go in our favor, we win and somehow the Texans upset the Ravens, then we're 6 straight AFC championships, all in Kansas City.
right.
That's dynasty talk. I think the reason I ask that is because you see a lot of the national media is going, well, if this team doesn't make it to the Super Bowl this year, then close that window. You're not going to have Chris Jones back. They're not going to re-sign him. They're not going to have any cap space to go out and get anybody because they got to lock up their other guys on the team. You got Nick Bolton, L'Jarius Sneed. Everyone's going to leave. This team's going to be different. But as long as Brett Veach, Andy Reid, and Patrick Mahomes are here, I don't have any real concern of the future talk about this thing slowing down anytime soon. There's nothing about Mahomes' game that suggests he's going anywhere but continuously up or maybe slowing down that upward trend. But there's nothing about this team that I think suggests that their run is over anytime soon. Not until they get knocked off in the division at some point.
Yeah, no. And like that 2019 team that won the Super Bowl, it's completely different. I think you've got a couple guys, like you've got obviously the big three, which I think the Tyreek Hill trade, this could be more offseason talk, but the Tyreek Hill trade and the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl last year, and if the Chiefs continue to go on a run this year, has actually increased Chris Jones' Hall of Fame resume.
Oh, yeah.
Because like that's part of it is, we like to think of these things in threes, and forever it was Tyreek, Travis, and Patrick. Well, with Tyreek being gone for the last one, Chris Jones coming in and still being a dominant player, I think mentally it's going to give those voters, even if his stats may come up a little short, he's going to be the third piece on this dynasty, since he's him, and those are the only big three that have really stuck around. So that can be more offseason talk, but especially if he signs somewhere else. But this team is already completely different from that first run. I think like you have like Derek Nottie and Blake Bell and like Nick Allegretti were on that first Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
But really you're down to 4. You're down to 4 key players. Those 3 I said, and Harrison Butker. So it's like the team's already different. That if the team takes another hit next year and Chris Jones is gone and you lose a Willie Gay and, whatever else may happen, like the dynasty is still open. So.
Yeah, because those conversations never came up with the Patriots.
No,
it was
never.
Bill Belichick, Tom Brady. Doesn't matter who's playing wide receiver.
Right.
So
Right.
why should that be different with us?
Yeah, it shouldn't be. It's the same thing. But I know we're getting close to the end, but I know you had some bets you were looking up. What bets do you like for this game
Yeah, let's
for those
let's look at
Kansas
a
for our Kansas
couple.
audience or people that live close to Kansas and can play some stuff?
So if you feel confident the Chiefs are winning, which of course we do, I know we're biased, but we feel that way. There's two ones you could look at here. Chiefs money line plus 124. So you're going to win money if you put any sort of money down on the Chiefs to win. If you're a little worried about being fourth or plus and a half at plus 100. So you're still making money there, even if like say it's neck and neck at the end, as long as it's not tied at the end, the Bills go up on a field goal. Um, Chiefs are going to make you money there. Anytime touchdown scores, I've been looking at this a couple times this week, and there's some interesting ones here. I think the Josh Allen is the only one who's got an anytime status that is minus odds because it just seems to happen. And I do feel like a Josh Allen touchdown is likely, especially if they get into the red zone because the Chiefs have enough to spread them out to where Josh Allen's probably going to have a running lane. Rashee Rice, maybe at anytime touchdown, he's at plus 125. He's had, I don't know the exact total, but he's been working up the board as far as touchdowns. Outside of that, I'm not really, I haven't been big into the touchdown scores lately because it's just so hard to predict. Like all it takes is one ridiculous play and Latavius Murray gets the ball at the 1 yard line. So he's plus 850. Let's look at some of the passing props here. Do you
What I like
think
to do
even
on
though,
those
go ahead.
sorry, what I like to do on those rushing ones, especially with someone like Josh Allen that just feels such a lock, that it's minus. I'll just whoever I think is going to score on the Chief, the most likely, whether it's Rice or Pacheco, I just do a quick
Just pair it
parlay.
with Allen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like if you think it's going to be
And
Pacheco, just
Pacheco, I like Pacheco for that one. They've
right,
been
right. That's
going
how
down to
I
the
would
red
do it.
zone a lot more.
That's how I would play it. Like just so it boosts your odds a little bit on what feels like as close to a sure thing as scoring touchdowns can be in Josh Allen. Pair it with whoever you think's on the Chiefs, and boom, you've changed your odds a little bit.
Passing yards, I'm a little iffy on because both of the marks are set relatively high. Josh Allen, you're not going to really make any money until you're at 250, and he's been consistently getting there. And I think even though this Chiefs defense has been really solid, this Bills offense is set up for chunk plays. Shakir's been great in space. Gabe Davis is always a big time threat down the field. Dalton Kincaid's beating up, so I'd probably steer away from that. I do like as far as the receiving prop side. Stephon's under his total of 61 and a half. Again, we've had, I think, every top receiver this year has been held under their line outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown in the first game. So I feel pretty good about that one. Justin Watson, if you want to parlay some Chiefs receivers, Travis Kelce over 60 and a half. I think I like that. Again, he's been really close to that, and they've been finding ways to get him the ball in space. And again, this Bills defense, like we said, he's going to find gaps there. So parlaying, Travis Kelce with Justin Watson, 19 and a half yards. Don't mind that. The funny thing is there's no MVS on here because he's basically played himself out.
Right. Is there
The easiest
Kadarius
no-brainer.
Tony
Go
makes a
ahead.
mistake? Or is there
Yeah.
Kadarius Tony makes a
There's
mistake
not.
bet? Oh man, okay.
I'm
I was
I'm
like,
sure I'm sure
I
on
don't even
some
know if he'll be active, but he's
yeah.
still battling injury slash in the doghouse. But
Some side sites might have that. Um, it's not on here currently, but if you can find it anywhere a Noah Gray catch, put your entire mortgage on that thing. There's no way he goes a game without a catch. They get him one catch all the time.
oh my
Rushing
god,
props, James Cook at 43 and a half. I do like, I'm sorry, that's Josh Allen's 43 and a half. James Cook at 61 and a half. Patrick Mahomes over 27 and a half. I do like the over on that. He basically last week, I think it was 24 and he got that on one play. Um, he's going to go toe to toe with Josh Allen this game. So I wouldn't be shocked if Mahomes gets, 5 carries by the time it's said and done, just by getting outside the pocket. Pacheco over 63 and a half. I think he's hit his over in 4 of his last 5 games. So there's no reason to believe that won't happen again. And this is kind of a weird one, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire over 7.5 rushing yards. Don't mind that one either because he's going to get 2 to 3 carries at some point throughout this game, and he's actually been pretty decent. So if he gets 3 carries at 3 yards apiece, he's there. The ones I want to get into is defensively, though. I I wonder how frustrating this team will be to the Bills, and so I think there's a good chance that they turn the ball over. It's just a matter of if you want to go interception. I mean, Mike Edwards is plus 430 to record interception. We haven't seen Snead really pick anything off because they just don't really throw to him. But Justin Reed plus 900. I like that. If you look at the sack totals here, Chris Jones to record a sack is plus money. George Karlaftis to record a sack, plus money. Greg Russo, plus money to record a sack. All of those individually sprinkle a bit there. Someone's going to get a sack in this game. It's just that both defensive lines are too good not to get pressure on the quarterback, and both offensive lines have concerns at different spots there. So I think both guys go down at least once. I was looking at that. I was going to say, because I think I want to say almost every game this postseason so far has had a defensive touchdown. Where is Chiefs defense anytime touchdown?
Man, and the
Chiefs
Chiefs
defense
just have
plus 900.
been so bad at taking the ball away. Like they're so good at leaving you out of the end zone,
Yeah,
but they're
that's
so
that's the
bad at taking
problem. Like they don't force the turnovers, but Josh Allen is turnover prone. So I think he's gonna set that up. So all you need is a strip sack fumble on the short side of the field, and maybe Mike Dana picks it up and runs it back or something. But
Mike
I
Dana.
don't know. I haven't dove in too deep in this because they don't have all the player props yet. But I like as far as the overall, I like the under in points at 45.5. That's minus one fan. Again, it just kind of feels like a 21-17, 24-20 type game. And then I'm taking either Chiefs money line or Chiefs plus 2.5. I just it feels like the game plan to winning this game it should be more obvious than what the national perspective might be.
Yeah, no, I think that's good stuff. Appreciate you going over for this. And just to confirm it, we always like to wrap it up with, well, what is your game score prediction? You sticking with that 20-17 or 21 or whatever you just said?
So last week I think I said 22 to 13 or something, and the Chiefs missed an extra point, and then it ended up being
Yeah.
a lot of field goals. I do think touchdowns are going to be more important this week, but there's no way Bucker doesn't get 1 to 2 field goals. So if you get 6 there, 2 touchdowns, you're at 20. I've been back and forth on 2017 Chiefs or 2014 because they go up to take one score lead, but you need a touchdown to cover, and the Bills press down the field, and the Chiefs, defense pulls it out. So I'm gonna go. Man, I say that, but there's a small part of me that thinks that this game does become a bigger offensive game. I'm gonna go. Let's go 24-17 Chiefs.
Nice. I like it. I'm in the same ballpark. I like 23-17 Chiefs. I think Josh Allen gets the ball back late and comes up short because he needs a touchdown, and that's really hard to do. And I think the Chiefs score on 5 possessions, kick 3 field goals, a couple touchdowns, and that's all you need. That is all you need. I'm going
Yeah.
to continue to hammer that point to kick the field goals when you can. Like first half, if it's 4th and 3, anywhere you could be 4th and goal from the 3. I am kicking it in the first half. 100%.
Take the
That is my
points.
mindset. Take the
Yeah,
points.
you
Now,
just see too many games where you don't take the points in the first half and it comes. I mean, we literally talked about this a couple episodes ago where Andy chose to go for it in the first half. They don't get it, and Bucker. No, Bucker didn't miss. Maybe he made an extra point or something. Whatever it was, you didn't take the points in the first half, and that ended up being the difference in the second half.
right. Like I think it was the Packers game to where now they was a little further deep, but I think there's 2 instances Andy passed on some field goals, and like you ended up losing that game by 8 because you needed a touchdown at the end when you kicked the 2 field goals that no one talked about except us. No one
Yep,
cared that
2
Andy
field
passed
goals, and then you're kicking a
on
field
some
goal to
long
win it.
field goals. Yeah, like I know that one was like a 54 and the other was like a 49, so they weren't guaranteed, but it's Harrison Butker. So like I'm giving him that chance. And I think the Chiefs should do the same. Now, maybe not 54 if there's swirling winds and it feels like it's
Yeah.
negative. It feels like it's 15 degrees. Maybe don't kick the 54-yarder unless you absolutely have to. But 43 and less, 43 and less, I'm kicking it. I'm 100% kicking it. So that's where
6
I'm
field
leaving.
goals still gets you to 18, and the defense only gives up 17.
17, yeah, right. So we'll make the most of it. But well, I think that is going to do it for us this week. As always, we appreciate you guys listening. Please make sure to go check out Keegan Russell at Keeganator_11. And Keegan, you got anything else for the people before we log off here?
I just would love you guys to hit subscribe here on the podcast. We've got a lot of fun things we're planning on doing. It just takes some time to get there. We've got a lot of guys in here in this group that are loving putting out content. So give us a like and subscribe. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at KCSA Pod as well. Would love to get any questions you guys have sent our way for any show ideas. We're going to kind of plan a couple live sessions coming up soon to try and kind of get some more of your takes on here. So a lot of fun stuff. Again, basketball season. We're in the middle of basketball season. In addition to football, might still talk a little bit more baseball because spring training is still not that far away now. So a lot of stuff to talk about in sports, and we're going to try and get as much of it to you guys. So the best way to stay up to date with all of it is to hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, for sure. Please check it out. And I'm in football mode, but I'm always partially in baseball mode. So I'm excited for that as well. But that is
Yeah,
going to
the
do it
Royals
for us.
just did a bunch of signings, international signings. Maybe we'll have to talk about that soon.
I don't know, man. I don't
The
the
fans probably
lottery
don't care
ticket,
about that.
the lottery ticket special. Acuna was signed for $100,000 internationally.
What a
Like I
what a
don't even
miss! What a
like
miss!
I don't even know how to evaluate that. Salvi was signed for nothing out of Venezuela internationally. Like I don't even
Wasn't it
know how
like
to.
$5,000 something?
Yeah, like I don't even know how to talk about the international signings because those are it just feels so random most of the time. But maybe, there's a good chance one or two of those kids makes an impact. I just won't know which one for another 6 years, but I digress. That is going to do it for us this time. Though hopefully we'll be back to you next week talking about a Chiefs victory as they try to go through their 6th straight conference championship. Otherwise, we'll be starting to look at this team and how it could look very different, but hopefully we got a few weeks for that. So as always, appreciate you listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Go Chiefs!